Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ramani Subramanian, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to the Guru Talk series. You're going to enjoy the next few minutes because our Guru this morning is none other than the iconic voice of sports of India, Charu Sharma. It's particularly a great pleasure for me to introduce Charu for two reasons. The first is the fact that both of us come from the same college, which is St. Stephen's College in Delhi. Of course, I must hasten to tell you that I did not know Charu in college because the year I joined college, 1959, was the year Charu was born. However, I must tell you the second great reason I have for being able to introduce Charu this morning to you is that I hold him in great esteem. I have great admiration for his analytical skill of sports and sportspersons on and off the field, his tremendous sense of fair play, his insights and his farsights. So I think you're going to enjoy listening to him in the next few minutes. I would like to say a few bits about Charu. He has admonished me not to take more than 1 minute, but having been his senior in college, I will take perhaps a little longer than 1 minute, seeking the indulgence of Charu. During the period 1970 to 1981, I believe that Charu went through the golden years of his sports activity. He played every conceivable sport during that period when he was 11 to 21. In fact, he started swimming at a very young age, having studied at the prestigious New York College in Ajmer, which has vast grounds and a beautiful swimming pool with a diving board. So he was 6 times junior national champion in the period 1970 to 76. Now that makes him from 9 years old?
I was almost 11.
Almost 11. 11 years old onwards, he was national champion for 6 years. And then at St. Stephen's, he was the inter-university champion for 3 years, from 76 to 79. Charu graduated with a bachelor's in arts from St. Stephen's and moved on to Davidson at North Carolina, where again he distinguished himself in the world of aquatics. But lest you misunderstand that he's confined to the world of aquatics only, certainly he was very fond of swimming, certainly he was a great diving champion, but he was also a very keen cricketer. He was associated with the League of Calcutta and Delhi. And in fact, there is not a single sport which he has not played or handled, including rock climbing and mountaineering.
Very big part of my life.
And of course, kabaddi.
Yes, also.
He moved on from active sports to the world of media and media presentations and TV anchoring. I think the career started with the 9th Asian Games.
That's right, 1982.
In 1982, sorry. And he's still at it. In fact, when we invited him to be our guru in the month of August, we kept reminding him, and we found that in September, October, he was in Incheon. And true to the greatness of the man, when we reminded him, he said, I told you I'll be there and I will be there. And here he is. So, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Mr. Charu Sharma.
Thank you.
Warm welcome to you, Charu.
Thank you very much.
We had suggested to Charu that the subject we would like him to dwell upon is learnings from the world of sports. Now, I must tell you that Charu is a a man of great action. He's a man for all seasons. And he said, okay, that's fine, but no academic lecture, because I think the students have enough of it. So what I would love to do is to interact with you and your audience. And this is exactly how we are going to conduct the proceedings this morning. I have a few questions which I will be asking on all of you behalf. Just a few, 4 or 5. We don't want to take all the time because more than half the time for the Guru Talk we want to allocate to you. So Charu will field any questions you have, which you will pose on the chat box, and he will answer you, even in between the questions I ask, because that's the sort of person he is. Charu, the first question that all of us feel a bit concerned about is the fact that India is not a rich sporting nation. Somewhere down the line, the old concept that Asians are not competitive in sports, they can't do well, has been displaced by the rise of China. China has been doing incredibly well at both the Olympics and the various Asian Games.
By design.
That's right. And what is it that makes them tick? And what is it that we can learn from them to improve ourselves? I thought you could comment on that.
Yeah, just a couple of thoughts that come rushing in. One, of course, the whole concept of Guru Talk makes me a little uncomfortable because, all of you are probably a lot brighter than I ever was or am. So I don't mean to be a guru in any sense, except I'm just sharing time with you as a friend. So, for as a departure, it's a friend talk, right? You're absolutely right that India traditionally has not been, and we're generalizing, of course, there have always been individuals who've transcended nations, but we're not a sporting nation. We weren't and we're still not now. And that's not a disgrace, that's not a problem, because, nations have a right to be different or uniquely different, like all of us are as individuals. People who are tuning in or what's the true word? This is not television. Who are logging in. I'm a little tech illiterate, so I beg your pardon. So, as a nation, we are sensitive, we are soft, we are compassionate, and some of you might, snigger saying compassionate what? No, but we are. We're people who think about others. We have a very strong family fabric. That's the envy of many other nations. So we have many good things. We don't have a good sporting background because that's not who we are. We don't, physically we're, you might say we have a warrior class and so on and so forth, but generalizing, physically we're not the kind of people who push ourselves very hard. Perhaps it's the weather or many other things. People say it's so hot, so we can't push ourselves hard. But because of that, we don't have fabulous sporting traditions. Maybe we were not competitive. Maybe we were more spiritual, which is okay, which is not bad, which is a good thing to be. So we are in many ways swimming against the tide, against the wind. And that's why our achievements are taking a long time. Also, let's not forget we're still a young nation, under 70 years old. And it's taking time for us to find our bearings in many areas in life. And only now have we discovered more financial progress and freedom. Only now are we more globally seen. Even in the world of sport, only now are we emerging. So yes, we're an emerging nation. And there are many good reasons why we're not a sporting nation. You mentioned China. China realized the value of global acceptance through sport, which is a truism. And I often illustrate that by suggesting to people, there's one very important person, could be a lady as well, who was the finance minister of Jamaica, right? So I'm sure all of you know who the finance minister of Jamaica is, right? Because he or she runs the Jamaican economy. A very important person. So I ask people, perhaps I can ask you now, how many people know the finance minister of Jamaica? And, I can't see you, sadly, but I'm sure not too many hands are going up unless you quickly Google it. But may I ask you also, how many people know which country does the fastest man in the world, Usain Bolt, come from? And everybody will raise their hand and say, Jamaica. So I rest my case. I make my point that China realized that they can get massive global acceptance and appreciation through excellence in sport. And they said, okay, done. That's what we're going to do. Now, their form of governance is not the Indian form of governance. So when they decide something as a government, they do it. And no opposition is brooked. In India, should we now decide that, okay, Sports is the next big thing, and every district will have this, that, and the other, or we'll have 500 excellence centers. There will be 10,000 people saying, excuse me, what about housing? What about water? What about food? What about clothes? What about, so there are 50 million other issues in India, which are, if you look at it seriously, more important than sport. Because sport is a wonderful thing to have and to pay attention to, but only when you've achieved or only when you have fewer problems elsewhere. So India is still struggling with providing for its 1.2 odd billion people. I think it never will. And so sport is a very distant, esoteric kind of thing. Sport, forget it, yeah. Sport, some people want to go. These are all getting to be long answers, so I'll stop. But China has a different kind of governance, and they've realized the value of achievement through sport. They have spent an awful amount of time, effort, energy, infrastructure, everything on sport, because of which now we hold China in fairly high esteem. Of course, they've got all sorts of manufacturing, areas as well where the world envies China. But a lot of our appreciation of China is through its achievement in sport. And once the Indians realize that, and the Indian government realize that, I think they will do a lot more for sport than has been done so far.
Thank you very much, Charu. That's a point of view which I think is definitely worth looking at very carefully. The second question relates mainly to your proximity with luminaries in the world of sports. You know them in and off the field. The question is that people, when they play sports, whether it's cricket or football, which is a team game, or individual games like badminton or table tennis or chess, do they play for themselves or do they play for the nation? Would you like to comment on that, Charu?
Yeah, we all grow up playing for ourselves. Most people who achieve at the age of 15, 17, 20, 25 begin early. At that stage, and I can speak for myself too, you play because you like the game, or you're getting good at it, or you have a good coach, or your parents put you into a scheme, or whatever else it may be. You're not then thinking, oh, let me play for the nation and become, whatever else it is. So you always begin playing for yourself, and then you wonder, how far will you go? Will you be a state champion, or a national champion, or, a gold medal winner at the Asian Games, or the Olympics, or whatever? And even there, I think it's a bit of a misnomer to say, I am boxing for my nation. You're not boxing for yourself here. You're representing your nation, which is a good thing to do because you represent bodies, institutions. It's like at an earlier stage, I'm playing for my school. No, you're playing for yourself here. You belong to a school, so you play for the school. I am playing for my college. No, you're playing for yourself, but you belong to a college, so you represent that college. And that goes on. I'm very good at boxing, so now I'm part of the Indian boxing team, so I'm boxing. Will you box differently if you're boxing for Mongolia, or if you're boxing for South Africa, or if you're boxing for India? No. You'll box the way you can box and how well you can box. No, I'm boxing for India, my nation, so I must today drop dead. No, you just box as well as you can. I'm sorry, some people, I say things and, some people might, take it, because all sorts of, what are they called now? Twitter trolls or whatever the hell, who write, just nonsense here. But anyway, I'm sure you guys are more intelligent because you're with avagmah, or want to be. So, if you take a look at it, dispassionately, and you mentioned earlier, and I love that, thank you very much, a sense of fair play, So, my comments are always, if I can use the term, neutral, in the sense they're unbiased. I don't have to look for agendas, that I must always play the patriotic card, and of course we play for the nation. No, you play because you're good at something, and you want to get better. And the fact that you get selected for your nation is just because you belong to a nation. Now, if you migrate to Germany, and you play for Germany, then what happens? And people do that, they change nations. Then you don't play for a nation? No, you play because you're good at something.
So now, ladies and gentlemen, you know why Charu is the darling of the Indian sports world. Going on to the next question, Charu, there is the rules of the game. Organizations have rules of the game. Corporates have rules of the game. And coming back to the subject that we decided upon, learnings from the world of sports, I'd like to ask you whether there are learnings from the world of sports which the corporate sector in India can apply at the workplace.
one of the many lessons is the oldest one of all. Because in the world of sport, you get found out very quickly. Right. Because very often you're alone. In a team, sometimes you're with people. Say in a team of 11, you may not be found out because the other 10 are playing well. But in individual sports, you are alone and you get found out very quickly. And therefore, the value of hard work is immediately returned in the world of sport. And that is a very valuable lesson. Because very often, because of our team, we have a big team, we have many people in any organization, substandard work is not spotted till later. So the important lesson from the world of sport is that unless you are working to the end, to your extreme, you're not likely to succeed. And in the world of work or in life too, unless you realize the value of hard work being the only mirror that you hold to yourself, you're not likely to progress as much as you should or could. So sport teaches you the value of hard work immediately because the returns are immediate. You're first to second or third, or you don't qualify or whatever because you haven't worked hard enough. And in life, if you would follow that, to be honest with yourself and say, okay, I wanted to do more, to achieve more, but maybe I didn't work hard enough. Only when you realize that you worked to the hardest extreme possible, should you be able to sit back and say, well, I've got so-and-so return or remuneration because I worked the hardest I can. If I want more, I've got to work harder. So, I don't know if it's making sense, and you probably heard this hard work thing, 10,000 times in your life. But that's the first lesson from the world of sport. Don't blame others, don't blame the infrastructure, don't blame your partners, don't take it all on yourself. All the responsibility on yourself. And say, have I worked as hard as I possibly could? If you have, that's success. And if you haven't, then you've got to be honest with yourself and say, well, I really should be working harder. Maybe I can put in more hours. Maybe I can do things differently. Maybe I can seek help from colleagues. Maybe I can join avagmah, whatever, and increase my abilities. But yeah, I think sport teaches you that. Of course, there are hundreds of other more valuable lessons in terms of teamwork and what have you. And I know these are cliches, but there's no harm in my repeating it. Because in the world of sport, if you're not working as a completely cohesive unit, you are going to break down. Somewhere or the other, if you're not working cohesively, you're going to break down. It's got to be really together. And sometimes even in individual sport, you have a coach and a psychologist and a trainer and a this and a that, and you all have to work in the same direction together in a very focused manner. And, I know it's a cliche, but the truth is that in organizations, big or small, there are many times, if we are honest with ourselves, we realize we are not working together. A little problem with somebody, a little agenda with somebody, a little, somebody's not working hard enough, then the structure of an organization breaks down because we're not working completely together. Some might say, there are different levels in organizations, but therefore all are not the same. So it's unfair to expect yourself to be the same as everybody in terms of hierarchy. You just have to do your job very well, and hierarchy will take care of itself. You will be promoted or not or whatever, it'll take care of itself. But as long as you are providing that smooth interfacing, I think organizations will do well. And that helps everybody in the organization. Of course, I have 100 other lessons, but we don't have time.
Charu, I get a break. There's a question right here, which I'm passing on to you. You might like to tackle it.
Sachin, thank you for writing in. His question very quickly is, do I see progressive changes in the mindset of parents giving importance to sport as a career? Or is it still the same like the 80s or 90s when obviously parents were not giving too much importance to sport as a career? So with the changes in our nation, there are two sets of people, parents, who are now realizing the value of sport as a career. And they're on opposite ends of the spectrum. One, parents who are extremely well off, perhaps second generation, third generation well off. They are now allowing their children to pursue their sporting dreams. You'll find people who are well off saying, my son wants to play golf or tennis, it costs about 35 lakhs a year, that's okay. My son wants to play football, he wants to go train at Arsenal, the junior academy, it costs 25 lakhs a 3-month session, that's okay. I'm going to give in to his dream or his interest or passion and see where that leads him. Because obviously, there's no problem in terms of feeding your children. So, it's all found. There are 3 or 4 homes. There's plenty of food. There's no problem for the child as he's growing up, he or she. And so the parents say, well, let him do what he wants. And if the child says, I want to be a tennis player, the parents say, fine, go ahead. It's a very tough life. I mean, obviously, the chances of succeeding are very limited. But the parents are saying, go do it. On the opposite side of the spectrum, some parents who are obviously not very well off, or and their children are therefore not very well provided for, are also realizing that if my child is good at sport, I must try and encourage that in every which way possible, because that is his ticket out of this less privileged part of society. Those parents also seeing, well, if you can earn a living through sport, why not? Because, there are obviously sporting heroes who are doing well enough, but you have to choose your sport with care, because not all sports are giving you such returns, or, the reimbursement's not, or the rewards are not fabulous. But for some, remember, it's not just a question of earning prize money and becoming a rich sportsman. For a lot of less privileged parents, if their child can get a job through sport, even that's a good way out. Because, if you're a state champion or a national, sort of in the national team or whatever, then you can get a job in a bank or with ONGC or with, many other people who provide sportspersons jobs, and that's fine too. Because not everybody can, go through school with excellent marks or, join avagmah for an MBA. So if you have a sporting skill, then parents with less privileged backgrounds are also realizing that sports could be a career in terms of at least getting a job, if not earning too much. So that's how it is. A lot of people in the middle, of course, are very badly caught. The middle class is always badly caught up, because you may not have enough means to provide for your child in the world of sport, and you may think that, sport is not a good enough career for your child. So you're still stuck in the old medical, engineering, blah, 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 kind of career. So such is life, but we all need to know who we are.
Thank you so much. I'm sure, Sachin, you enjoyed that answer. I'm going to throw in my question, which we didn't do earlier. That is that both at college and generally we hear that people who play sports turn out to be very good marketing and salespeople.
Okay.
Number one. Number two, what I want to know from you is when you get a sports person to become a brand icon, what are the features, what are the qualities that you look for in the sports person? Would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, sure. The first part first. I'm glad you think so, that sports persons become or are naturally better sales and marketing people. And I'd like to think that you're right, because there's something called inhibition.
Yes.
And a lot of people in our part of the world, a lot of Indians, have plenty of inhibitions. Can't go there, can't see this, can't do this, But sports persons tend to shed inhibitions as they go along in their career. It's like, in a sense, let it all hang out. I am who I am, I wear what I wear, I do what I do. And there's possibly a head start for such people in the world of sales and marketing, because their level of confidence or their dealing with the external world has developed because of the world of sport. And sometimes you enter the world of sales and marketing and you don't really know yourself, you're not honest with yourself, and perhaps you're not as much of an extrovert as you need to be, because you do need to be comfortable with people. You can't have a problem with people or sets of people or I can't talk this language. Sports persons, it's an international language, the world of sport. So the confidence levels and the manner of dealing with the external world for sports persons is perhaps a little more enhanced, and therefore you're right, they make or potentially make for better sales and marketing people. About what are you looking for in an endorser, a sports
icon, brand icon, ambassador, brand.
I mean, for purposes of advertising, more directly,
mainly marketing, advertising, creating awareness.
Yeah, that's a tough one, because I have my own views and I don't want to color that. But I honestly think that, I don't want to overdo the whole concept of humility. But for me, aggressive behavior is not my trip in life. So I like to spread humility. I appreciate humility, and therefore, even in sportspersons, regardless of how much you achieve or not, I think humility is a very big word for me. And so if there's some icon, sporting icon, who I would like to use for advertising or taking my product forward, I think humility is a big key. I'm not given to overt signs of aggression because, it's needless here. I mean, you're doing well in your world of sport anyway. What's the point being aggressive and kind of, all out there? So I would look for a nice, calm, balanced, humble sporting icon to take my product forward, saying that, he is who he is. He or she, beg your pardon. And she has been kind enough to share her personality with my product. And if you admire the person for these qualities of humility, of obviously achievement and what have you, you might want to consider my product as something worth trying as well. I think that's just a personal view. So I'm not very happy with people who are overtly aggressive. Sometimes they might try and calm down and be used for advertising, in a humble avatar, but we know, it's not true. So humility is the key for me.
I have a question.
Oh, somebody called Karthik, you may know in our organization, who has a question. I've always been in the corporate world. What do you think is tougher when building a career? Corporate life or world of sports? Thus, which makes me a better person in life? That's a qualitative judgment. But if you can keep the question there for a while, without doubt, I mean, how many champions in the world of sport do you find in India? You can count them here. How many people are in the corporate world in India who've done well or run big companies? I mean, there are thousands. And therefore, just statistically, which is easier? If I might be allowed to offer my opinion, the corporate world. Because the sporting world is intensely competitive, and it's a visible competition out there every day. You've got to be on the top of your life or you will get toppled. I mean, today you win, tomorrow you lose because you weren't better prepared. Every day or every week or whatever there's competition, there can be a shift. But in the corporate world, it's a much longer race. It's like a giant life marathon. And you can have your own pace. You can become very well off, or let's use the word rich, or successful at the age of 28, 38, 48, 58, 68, 78. So you've got that time frame. I mean, I know it's competitive and you'd like to hit your billion by 40, but if you don't, it's okay. Nobody's sort of saying, oh, you're second best. I mean, you can be a billionaire or whatever at 48 or later. So therefore, just statistically speaking, the corporate world is in a sense more forgiving, if I can use that. It's a longer term. And sports is a very immediate return on your investment, which is tough. And you love that in the corporate world, but the sports world is tougher. Which makes you a better person? That's very individual. I think there are a lot of sports persons who are not good people. And there are a lot of corporate citizens who are actually good. I personally, and this is not answering your question about whether you're a better person or not than a sports person. I just think that what is your giving quotient, which to me personally is important. So Karthik, what is your giving quotient? Are you taking all the time? Are you making all the time? Are you accumulating all the time? Or are you giving also? Because eventually, how much will you take up there? So, what is your ability? What is your potential? What is your score on the giving index? That to me makes you a better person.
Thank you. Can I ask one question?
Sure.
I have a corollary on this. You're saying that, and I don't know if this is the answer that you gave, giving quotient is the answer, but the question is, all of us in the corporate world, we have these great sheets that HR circulates at the end of the year, which is performance review and all of that, which is a measure of how competitive you have been. And that's the hallmark of a sports person, and he definitely scores better in the sports world than the corporate world. So is there something that we can take or learn, we from the corporate world learn from the sports world in becoming more competitive and probably better achieving?
Yeah, the obvious answer to that, and you may have heard this, is the ability to not give up. I think the world of sport thrives on that, because any sportsman knows that you cannot win all the time. You cannot be on top all the time. In the corporate world, there is a feeling, I've been in part of the corporate world as well, that you've got to win at all costs, that you have to win every day. It's not natural. You will lose. You will be second best. Sometimes you're not as good as somebody next to you. That one day, that one time. And if I might use the term with apology, the corporate world shows a lot of arrogance, either about hierarchy or about being right or wrong. And if you have the ability to say, well, you've just joined the company, but I tell you what, you're right here. I think what you say makes a lot of sense. For somebody right on top of the company to admit that, or at a high level to admit that, is what it really takes. And to go back to this model answer, I think it's just the ability, as I keep saying several times, of the sportsperson. And what's the sporting spirit anyway? The ability to take defeat well. You get up, you have to. You get up, you dust yourself off, and you say, let's hit it again. And I'm sure that's possible in the corporate world as well. What it does make a sportsman, generally, is a person of a very positive mind frame. That not today, tomorrow. I came second today, doesn't matter, tomorrow. So there's this feeling of never giving up. And I know at times, especially in corporate HR or whatever, because you're dealing with such large sets of people, every once in a while you'll find people who are frustrated, who are disappointed, who are despondent, who are depressed, who are distressed. And the biggest challenge is to then rouse them again and say, come on, get up everybody. It didn't work out this time, it'll happen tomorrow. Next year, next target. So which is obviously individual as well. And some people are more positive than others. But in a company, it's very important for, sportspersons will do that anyway, hopefully. But it's a challenge I can understand, to constantly motivate people to come back for the second time, for the 290th time, to bounce back, to keep at it. And if that can be achieved, then you're talking about a company that's buoyant, that's vibrant, and that's almost always positive. Because I'm not talking about companies failing or doing well, because I shouldn't. I don't run major organizations, but I think people on an individual level, you'd like to be surrounded by people who are positive, who are buoyant, who are happy, who are saying, come on, okay, I did badly yesterday, but sir, tomorrow, or later today. Rather than saying, again, this whole sadness, this whole negativity is something that I personally, and if I may say so on behalf of all sports persons, would like to just eradicate from life. There's such a negative, this negativity is such a killer. Where do you go with that? Nowhere. So, I know people's lives sometimes like a roadblock, or not everybody's seeing billions in their lives. But come on, be honest with yourself here. How much do you really need? Can't you be happy at least? And if you're happy, I think you will do as well as you can, and the company will do as well as it can.
Charu, there have been 4 questions from students, and I've arranged it from the first to the last.
I'll have to try and be brief. I don't know, I'll try and be brief. How do you see Anuradha Rai? Anuradha? Roy, sorry. Thanks for writing. How do I see the future of coaching as a profession in the arena of developing sporting minds? Coaching as in not the technical coaching, but sport life coaching. And rather, you make a very important point here. And if I was a little more hardworking, I'd be that life coach. Yeah, the mind coach, because there's a lot to do with that. I mean, at every level, not just at the highest level, because at the highest level, of course, what makes the difference? Everybody's almost the same. What makes the difference? A little bit of extra mental strength, a little bit of extra belief. This whole self-belief thing. Psychology of sport. I'd love to do that. Not that I'm formally trained. And you're right, there's a very big need for that. But I'm not personally ready for sacrificing that kind of time. There is a future. A lot of sports persons at the lower levels will fight you back, that who needs a mental coach? I'm strong enough, I'll do it myself. But if they, sports persons themselves, or if the institutions, the organizations, the federations, understand and realize the importance of this, it's a very important angle. And you'll see as the world develops, as even the world of Indian sport develops, more and more will be seen in the world of mental coaches. So if you have a mind to do that, whether it's in sport or whether it's in the corporate arena or just in life, you'll find many more people who are terming themselves as life coaches. They have a very important role to play in society, because if nothing else, they can add to the self-confidence and positivity that I was just talking about. So thank you for writing it. Can we take the next one?
Yes.
Okay. Venu, thank you. Which is your favorite sport? Oh God, that's a killer, yaar. I mean, I'm sorry, but the standard answer is, if you have 4 children, which is your favorite child? You can't. I mean, they're all the same to me. It's damn tough, yaar, Venu. But okay, what are my current favorites? I spend a lot of time playing because I love playing them, because my body can only allow that. Golf and tennis. Now, I know that sounds very elitist and very country clubbish, so I beg your pardon, but those are my 2 current favorite sports. Of course, living in India, you can't get away from cricket. Now, see, I'm adding more and more to this. But I love them all. Okay. Dinesh, thank you for writing. Can you share about the awareness of sporting from time of schooling apart from 1 or 2 hours of physical exercises? Of course, we agree many institutes don't have supporting infrastructure, but how about at least knowing sporting personalities from childhood? Yeah, Dinesh, I didn't start playing because I admired somebody or, because there was an icon. You play, I think you make an important point. You say, apart from the hours of physical exercise, I think that alone is good enough. I mean, if you play sport, and therefore, you have a healthier bent to mind, and that, you're fitter than people around you, that's a good enough reason to play sport. I think when you want to excel or do really well in a sport, then perhaps it's important to know who the best in the sport are, and you try and emulate what they do, how they train, how they live, and all of that becomes very important when you want to excel. But if you just want to play, then you don't have to have heroes. It's more about fitness, more about self-confidence, more about this whole sporting spirit. When you play, you lose a bit. You say, it doesn't matter, I'll win tomorrow. You just take life, in a sense, with more balance. Because when you win, you say, "Theek hai yaar, I won today." When you lose, you say, "Theek hai yaar, I lost today." So you learn how to sort of walk through life with a breezier, better attitude than if you don't play sport, perhaps. So I had a lot of other heroes when I was growing up. One of my biggest cricketing heroes, I have no shame in admitting, was Salim Durrani, because he used to come and play in Rajasthan where we were. And he was such a cool guy, collars always up and just sort of cool. He used to come and bowl that lazy left-arm spin of his. And of course, you say, typically as youngsters, you always want somebody to hit a 6. Salim Durrani, we want a 6. Salim, we want a 6. And he'd go, he's lefty, just take 1 or 2 steps forward and come straight over the bowlers. Oh, fabulous personality. Anyway, he was one of my early heroes in terms of cricket, and many more in many sports, but don't have the time. Pranav, there's a joke in the grounds that says that Rohit Sharma will be part of the cricket team for the next 1 year for his 200 score, even if he does not perform in the next few matches. How true is that in cricket, and how correct is it? Pranav, you make such an important point here. It's fine, he's got the world record score in 1-day internationals now, 264. But does that mean they should continue playing? And you make, it's a question that I'm going to find hard to answer quickly. But the truth is that, again, in a team game, and I mentioned this earlier if you've been listening in, substandard performances are tolerated for a lot longer, obviously, than individual sport. If Rohit was playing an individual sport, he'd win 2 days ago when he made the 264. But he'd lose later if he scores 0, 10, 12, 14, 42. In cricket, he'll be allowed to carry on a lot longer than he should be, because that's what it does. In India, people tend to play for too long based on reputation. That's the kind of people we are. Oh, so-and-so. Oh, Guruji, Guru talk. So let him be allowed to make mistakes or carry on for a long time. Wrong, yeah, because in the world of sport, only the best, only the fittest, only the most apt people for that match or those matches should be taken in. Unlike Australia, you might remember, are very brutal. They're ruthless. I mean, you may be who you are. 2 or 3 matches, you don't do well, bring somebody else in. That's what we should do in India if we want to do well all the time. So I mean no disrespect to Rohit, but if he in the next 3 matches doesn't make runs, get somebody else. And what that does is has everybody remain hungry. If Rohit makes 264 now and then he makes 4, 14, 10, 4, out. Somebody else comes in, Rohit will remain hungry. He'll say, I want to come back to the Indian team. Right now, 264, I can live off it for a long. I'm not suggesting that that's his attitude, but the truth is that to retain hunger of participation, of doing well, this whole changing scenario is important. People say, why disturb a winning, combination, what have you? If the team might be winning, if 1 or 2 people are not doing well, you should get others in because there are hundreds of cricketers who are very good. Why not give them opportunities? And because if they don't do too well, they also realize they have to work a lot harder to come back. So it's a question of a line. Bring people back in line all the time so that they remain hungry to try and get the top of it. Anuradha, haven't you written before?
Yes, second time.
Okay. How do you see the future? Anuradha, you said the same thing. How do you see the future of coaching as a professional in the arena and developing sporting minds coaching, as in not the technical coaching but sporting life coaching? I think I've just answered that, Anuradha. It's a very, very important field. The future is very bright for those who deal with the mind training, and not only in the world of sport, but in life as well. So I think many more life coaches will continue to try and pop up in India as well, because people need that little bit of help just to be able to balance their lives. You don't want to go too one-sided. Just balance your life. Life coaching is very important, and certainly in the world of sport. Satya. Is that really how you spell your name? Sathia. Moresmo, retired from professional women's tennis, coaching Andy Murray, men's professional tennis. Many former sportsmen of other disciplines, even in Western countries, coaching the initial phase of their children. Well, I think Andy Murray's choice is fabulous. I mean, to take Moresmo in, I think it's also a big statement that women tennis players are also very, very good. And if they have a good mind, perhaps they can train men just as well. Not that Andy's done too well at the recent championships, the world the end of the season championship, but maybe he just wants some different angle, because Andy Murray has had the best coaches possible, and he's been there for a long time. He's not a newbie. And to take Amelie Moresmo is a out of the box thought, because maybe she can see it from a different angle. And right at the top now, Andy Murray has been in the top 4 for very long now. You need just that little bit of fine-tuning, some one point perhaps that Moresmo might see, saying that, listen, at this angle, at that point, this is what you need to do. And seeing it from different eyes could help. The truth also is that the better you are, the less coaching you need. And that's another big theory of mine, so I'm not going to go through it here today, because the higher the standard you achieve, the less the coaching you need. It's only at the lower levels that you need a lot of coaching to take you forward. At the highest level, it's only one small little point somewhere, some fine-tuning thing. Maybe like what Anuradha says, a little bit of, little mental angle somewhere that you need to be reminded of. But it's a very interesting thing, and Andy's done very well to take a ladies coach, because it opens the door for many other ladies to be coaching men, and men at every level should therefore have no problem with women trainers or coaches, or there are many women physios and trainers as well, because in the mental sense we're the same. Perhaps women are smarter. Maybe that's why he's taking Moresmo.
There are 3 questions more, Charu. Do you think you could?
Yeah, sure. So George, that's a long question. In the recent international games, the Kabaddi women's team won the gold. The captain is from a small village, and she still has hardships. I feel it's a myth that sports is a ticket to a better life. So I disagree with you that is helping even the not so well off parents to push their children to pursue their flying dream. How can we start to appreciate all the sports in this country? George, let's not be negative here. That no is not good. What if the recent Kabaddi women's team that won the gold at the Asian Games for the second time, by the way, they retained the gold medal. What if she wasn't playing? Do you think she'd be better off? No. Do you know that the women's Kabaddi player from Karnataka, come on here, I'm sorry, I should know, but I'll get the name in a second. When they won the World Cup, Women's Kabaddi World Cup in Bihar about 3 years ago, when she came back, she got 1 crore from the Karnataka government. Money that she would never made in her life because of winning 1 world championship, that too in a team game. So you can imagine that, there's obviously a fair amount of money. She may be still living in a village, but if you're talking about Tejaswini Bai, she's with the railways. She's not badly off at all, and she's doing pretty well. Why? Because she's a sports person. If she wasn't, God alone knows where she would be. So I think you need to get your facts right. The captain hails from a small village. The captain was Tejaswini Bai, and she's done pretty well for herself. She's got plenty of rewards, plenty of awards. She's leading a pretty decent life. If she hadn't played kabaddi or had not excelled in kabaddi, who knows where she would have been. So I don't like this negative attitude of yours, George. I think she's doing very well because she's a player. Is she doing as well as Bill Gates? No, yeah. But not everybody can be Bill Gates or George. Preetham, thanks for writing in. How we can start sports seeds in our growing children who have families in business and which sport to start? Yeah. Well, like I said a little earlier, I think it's all because of the fitness of general health and well-being that people should play sport to begin with. If you find that you have a natural ability for a certain sport, if you can run fast or leap high, or if you can throw harder, if you realize some natural abilities, that's when you should start focusing. Too many parents are saying, go play cricket. And the poor child, he can't even pick up a ball or throw it, going to a cricket coaching camp, $500 a month, doing stuff that, so it's all about athleticism and fitness to begin with. Then you see that my child is very fit, very athletic, has special ability. And then you start saying, okay, what do I make him or her play? There also parents have a little problem because a lot of parents say, okay, let's play for money. So therefore my child must only play cricket, golf or tennis or whatever's making them money. That's not true, yeah. You need to make sure that they play a sport which they are ready for, which they have ability for. And you've got to realize if you play volleyball, for instance, you're not going to make money because it's not a professional sport. And, if you might even play for India, but it's never going to earn you money. It's just going to make you a fitter, better sports person. And those lessons that you learn from the world of sport, of hard work, of discipline, of taking victory and defeat in stride, the self-confidence that comes in, will stand you in good stead whatever you do, whichever job you might eventually take. So which sport? The sport that your child shows better natural ability or affinity for. Not the one that is making money only. Because money can be made in many other ways, in many jobs as well. Raviraj Moily, thanks for writing in. Why is corruption becoming a way of life in sports? Do you think this is something to do about how one is coached or mentored? Sport is like life. Is there corruption in life? If you say yes, then there is corruption in sport. If you say there is no corruption in life, then I think you're wrong. So sport only reflects our society. It reflects who we are. It reflects which country we operate in. And there is less corruption in the world of sport in countries that are less corrupt. And in countries that are corrupt or more corrupt, naturally, the same set of people are playing sport. So they will reflect the way of life of that country or of the people, of that set of people. And in India, yes, there is corruption in sport because every once in a while, at the early levels, you face corruption because somebody from the federation may select somebody who's not worth selecting, or people sometimes steal your money, your per diems, your daily wages are sometimes taken away. So there's all sorts of levels of corruption in India in the world of sports and sports management or the institutions that run sport. And sports persons learn from that, sometimes wrongly. Now, we'd like to believe that the world of sport is a very clean, pristine, white world. It isn't. There are bad apples everywhere, and so are they in the world of sport. But I would like to imagine that in the world of sport, percentage-wise, there are less corrupt people than otherwise, than in the rest of the world. So there is a certain level of added purity to the world of sport, but it's not corruption-free. And it's, in a sense, unfair to expect the world of sports to be free of corruption. I mean, what is free of corruption? And if sports is a part of life and life is corrupt, then sport will be corrupt. And obviously, what we need to do is keep it in check and punish heavily. Not that punishment is always a big deterrent, because you could say that murder has a life sentence or death by hanging or what's it called, death penalty. Has that stopped people from murdering? No. So obviously punishment helps as a deterrent, but if people have a natural tendency to be corrupt, they will be. And we have to understand that and make enough provision to punish, but we cannot eradicate it.
Thank you very much, Charu. Time has robbed me of my final question, which I think I have to defer till we get Charu the next time to a group.
Go for it. I promised a quick answer.
No.
If it's a quick question.
Not only because that will take a little time. I'm sure all of you will agree that this has been a very scintillating session. Apart from the thrust and the repartee, I think what came through was enormous honesty. I think great integrity. And we are very grateful to you, Charu, for being with us this morning. I must also conclude by saying that this session would not have been possible without the support of so many people working quietly, perhaps unknown, but in the background, doing much more than that bit. To begin with, the house cleaning. They came so early in the morning to make us all comfortable, giving us the refreshments. And then the planners.
Rajesh, thank you.
And then the planners, people who went meticulously into every nitty-gritty of the session, and of course the technological team. I must mention to you that whenever we have a Guru Talk session, even if it is outside the city that we live in, Bangalore, we have technical people all over the country supporting us with the know-how and the technology. And then, of course, there is the DEX team, the student health team, which we cannot overlook, who have very kindly answered every one of your queries, give you the access facilities. I would like to thank each one of them for making this session a great success. Once again, thank you, Charu, for finding the time.
Thank you. And with your permission, 10 seconds. Can I thank all of you? I know it's a Sunday morning, so you have 50 other things to do. But thank you for logging in. I kept saying tuning in, but logging in. And I've answered a few questions to the best of my ability. Many I couldn't because of time or whatever else. And opinions differ. And it's okay to have different opinions. So if my opinion wasn't matching yours, it's okay. Take it easy. Be positive and lead a calm, happy life.
That's Charu Sharma for you. Goodbye and thank you for being with us.